I declare war. So yesterday I saw a video on my son's Instagram page where he played Daniel Cameron's response to Megan Thee Stallion. And also as a response to Tamika Mallory as well. Those of you who are familiar with my New Possibilities channel, you know that I did a video about Megan Thee Stallion's performance at the Saturday Night Live show. During that performance, she did a song, Savage, and right before she started to sing that song, she had a performance that included excerpts from Tamika Mallory's fiery speech about Daniel Cameron. In that speech, Tamika Mallory called Daniel Cameron a sellout. And she said that he was like a lot of those sellouts that sold our people into slavery. So that particular clip was played during Megan Thee Stallion's performance on Saturday Night Live. Also during that clip, they played audio from Malcolm X's speech where he talks about the need to protect Black women, when he talks about how the Black woman is the least respected and protected member of society. So in response to that performance, Daniel Cameron made some comments during an interview on Fox and Friends. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some of that audio, and then I'm going to provide my response to what he had to say. But before I get into that, I want to let you all know that I do plan to do another live stream on my New Possibilities channel. It will be my reaction to the debate that's scheduled for tonight. You have the vice presidential candidates who are going to debate, Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. I plan to provide my response to that whole debate. Also, I plan to do a video about the George Floyd case. There have been some developments. So let's go ahead and play this audio from Daniel Cameron. And I'm going to interrupt as we play it. I'm going to stop at certain points and provide my brief commentary.
Your name was depicted on Saturday Night Live this past weekend, and during a musical performance, the singer mentioned you as well. We're going to play this and then get your reaction. Watch.
Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery by statute.
We need to protect our Black women and love our Black women. Because at the end of the day, we need our Black women.
Attorney General?
Well, let me just say I agree that we need to love and protect our Black women. There's no question about that. But the fact that someone would get on national television.
So before he even goes any further, like even though he's saying that he believes that we need to love and protect our Black women, he obviously doesn't, because he allowed these cops to get away with murder. He did not even present criminal homicide charges during that grand jury hearing. He didn't even place that on the table. He wasn't even considering charging these officers with criminal homicide at all. That wasn't even on the table. It wasn't up for consideration. So obviously he's not about protecting Black women. And he's definitely not about loving Black women because he's married to a white woman. So let's continue.
And make disparaging comments about me because I'm simply trying to do my job is disgusting.
So nobody's making disparaging comments about him for just doing his job. They are making disparaging comments about him because he's sold out. They're making disparaging comments about him because here you have a situation where a young Black woman was shot and killed by police without any kind of legal justification. Here you have an unarmed woman, and these police, at the very least, as I said before, they were reckless or at the very, very least, negligent in killing this woman. Even if their scenario is correct, like where they say that they entered the home and the brother began to shoot at them. And again, as I said, time and time again, here you have a situation where these people, according to many witnesses, did not identify themselves as police officers. They did not have on uniforms. They were in plain clothes. They break into this man's house in the middle of the night. and he has no idea who these people are. So he immediately calls the police after, his girlfriend, Breonna Taylor, is shot to death. If he knew that these were the police, he would not have called the police. But that's the situation you have. So this is about criminal negligence. So even if you have a situation where a suspect is firing at the police, that doesn't justify the police firing in such a way that they hit innocent bystanders. And that's exactly what happened here. This sister was killed, and at the very least, this man could have brought some manslaughter charges, involuntary manslaughter charges, voluntary manslaughter charges, but he didn't even put that on the table. This is not about him, quote unquote, doing his job. It's about him not doing his job, about him not aggressively pushing this case and aggressively prosecuting this case.
It's not the first time we see this, and it certainly won't be the last time we see this. At the end of the day, my responsibility is to provide facts and truth and represent and stand up for justice. I think what you saw there in that display is someone.
He's not standing up for justice. What he's standing up for is injustice, because he's allowing these police to literally get away with murdering this sister. And as I said before, even though this grand jury decided not to indict those officers based on the way he presented the case, he presented it without even giving them the option to prosecute or to indict these officers for criminal homicide. So even though, they reached a decision, there can be another grand jury convened. And I think that that's what activists need to be pushing for. They need to push aggressively for a second grand jury to be convened, or for a special prosecutor in this case, so that there can be some kind of justice in this case. He was not about trying to bring about justice. He did everything in his power to help bring about injustice, to perpetuate a system that systematically kills Black people with impunity.
Who instead wants to fashion facts to a narrative. That narrative is simply not true in this particular case with Miss Taylor. Again, it is a tragedy what happened to her.
So he says that the narrative is not true that people are talking about, but he's not pointing out what's untrue about the narrative that people are saying. Nothing is untrue about the fact that these police went into that home. They had a no-knock warrant. That's where they're not even required to knock. And they say that they knocked on a door, but according to many witnesses, they did not identify themselves at all. And also, you had this one witness who later said that they identified themselves, but initially that same witness said that they did not identify themselves. They did not identify themselves as police officers.
But what you saw on the screen there and what your viewers saw is something that I've had to experience because I'm a Black Republican, because I stand up for truth and justice as opposed to giving in to a mob mentality.
So first of all, it's not about his just him being a Republican or anything like that. This is not about Democrats versus Republican. It's not simply about that. It's about injustice in this particular case. That's why people are outraged. And people also had bad signals based on who he's aligned with. This man is, and it's not just about him being a regular Republican, but he's aligned with Donald Trump, somebody that panders to white supremacists, someone who told that racist group, Proud Boys, to stand back and stand by. That's what Donald Trump told them. This is the man that he aligns himself with. He aligns himself with a man who called those white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia, some very fine people. He aligns himself with a man who refused to denounce David Duke, a Klansman. And he refused to denounce the endorsement of David Duke and the KKK. This is who this man Daniel Cameron is aligned with. A man that's made it clear that he supports these white supremacists. He wants their vote. And, you know, he's appointed white supremacists to his own administration. This is who Daniel Cameron is supporting. So it's not just about you being some Republican. It's about you supporting a racist man, a white supremacist, Donald Trump. And it's mainly about your failure to fight for justice for Breonna Taylor.
And those are the sorts of things that will be hurled at me in this job. Those are the sorts of things that I've heard.
And one thing that I want to get to is he keeps talking about standing up for justice versus mob justice. These protests they're not mobs. These are people demanding justice. That's what they're doing. I mean, to call it mob justice is such so disrespectful. You know, that term mob justice is like applied to lynch mobs. That's what it's applied to. And here in this situation, you have Breonna Taylor, who was lynched by these punk ass police. And you got this coon talking about some mob justice. And it's just a disgrace, man. It's an absolute disgrace that you had this Negro basically talking about the protesters are cherry picking facts and, all about mob justice. When the fact of the matter is he cherry picked when he presented this case to the grand jury. He took all these things off the table, all these potential charges, and literally cherry picked the charges that he thought was appropriate. And that's why you have this situation. And in fact, as I mentioned in my video on my New Possibilities channel, one of these grand jurors took issue with the way he presented things. Like he presented it as if this was all on the grand jury, like that they looked at all the evidence and reached the conclusion that there should be no indictment for the killing of Breonna Taylor. When in fact, he presented the case that way so that they didn't have any other choice.
When I was in college, again, because I identify with a different political philosophy, and therefore that shades the way people view me. The fact that a celebrity that I've never met before wants to make those sorts of statements, they don't hurt me. But what it does, it exposes the type of intolerance that people and the hypocrisy, because obviously people preach about being tolerant. We see a lot of that from the left about being tolerant. But what you saw there is inconsistent with tolerance.
See, this is not about like tolerance. Like he's making it seem as if this is about tolerance in terms of just accepting general differences between people and stuff like that. This is not about that. It's about people refusing to accept injustice. That's what it's about. That's why people are outraged. That's why people like Megan Thee Stallion are using their platforms to speak out against what this man did. It's not about somebody picking on him because he's a Republican or anything like that. It's about people challenging a system of injustice, and it's about them challenging his role in that injustice. So he needs to stop crying and whining and make it seem like he's the victim. The real victim here is Breonna Taylor. And I think that we need to keep fighting and keep up the pressure and keep demanding justice for this sister, Breonna Taylor. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Again, I want to remind you that I will be on my New Possibilities channel tonight doing a live stream about this debate that's scheduled for today, the debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. Also, I will be talking about the George Floyd case and some developments in that case. Peace and blessings. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a good evening.